Today, I'm going to be talking about the 5 essential apps on my phone that I found that I needed, in quotations. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. And it's really not the apps, but the specific actions I use the apps for, or the services that these apps provide me. If you think of your phone as a tool that you've bought for a purpose, what are the commitments, what are the services it gives me or allows me to do? So why this came up? My wife and I and my 2 little kids went up to the North Shore of Lake Superior this weekend for a camping trip. Just car camping. We went to a state park, brought all our food, pulled in, put the phones in the glove compartment, and tried to go phone free. We checked them in the morning and the evening for emergencies, but other than that, we did without our phones as much as we possibly could. And so while we did that, we were up there. We did this from Sunday through Wednesday, and a couple of times it came up like, "Ooh, I wish I needed my phone for that." That's a good use. That's not a bad use of the phone. And good and bad are totally subjective, so just my own definition. And the first one I already just mentioned, we checked it for emergencies. So not necessarily having the messaging apps. That wasn't what I needed it for. But it was to be alerted if there was an emergency, if in the family or friends or whatever. That's it. If I had a way to get that without using my phone, that'd be great, because when I turned it on in the morning and the evening to check, I had tons of messages that weren't emergencies. We didn't have any emergencies. So if we knew we would be able to get a hold of, we wouldn't have needed that one. But that is, unfortunately, without a replacement, that's an essential one. Another one was maps. I use Google Maps, and it wasn't for navigation. If you've ever been up to the North Shore, you might know it's really just one road. Good signage. You're going to find everything you need. So I didn't need it for the navigation. I needed it to tell me when certain things were open or closed. There was a couple times we wanted to know if a restaurant in Grand Marais was open or what time it was open, and we actually didn't end up checking at least one of them one time, and we just showed up and it was fine. But for another, we wanted to make sure before we made the trip in. But we did get burned by this. It's kind of a tradition when my wife and I go up there to go to World's Best Donuts, and we had taken my daughter there when she was really little, when we did a whole circle tour of Lake Superior. But this was my son's first time in Grand Marais, and so we wanted to kind of keep that tradition alive. We actually went Wednesday morning. It wasn't open, and so we didn't get to do it. And if we would have known, maybe we would have gone Sunday. I know it was open Sunday, and so maybe we would have done that first thing and not waited. But I thought it would be a nice thing to do before we left. So got burned on that one. Essential. This is questionable. Sorry, I got a cat chewing at me. This is Gigi. So that's 2. Another thing was another M, music. There's a couple times when we were driving and we wanted to listen to a certain song. Again, not as necessarily essential. We did it without it. We did the trip without it. Nothing happened. But there was a couple of times where it would have been nice to just throw on a song or two. It would have added to the experience. It wouldn't have detracted from it. Now, if we would have had it available for us nonstop, maybe that would have been a different story. Maybe it would have fallen into bad use instead of good use. So that's a little questionable, but for me, not having access to those few times, I felt like we missed out. Very minor. And these last 2 are 2 big ones for me. One is an app I call Notion, or not, I don't call it that, that's what it's called. So it's Notion, and I use it to capture my commitments. Other people call these tasks to-dos. I call them my commitments, whether they're to myself or to other people. There was things that came up, I remembered in my head, I have to do that. I have to message that person, or I checked something on my phone and I saw a message from somebody and I read it, but I didn't want to reply. And I wanted to capture, reply to this person. Those kind of things. So I didn't have access to that, so I wasn't able to jot those things down. It could be argued that this is a good thing, because I tend to say, oh, that's really easy to do. I'll do that. I'll message that person about this, or I'll do this or do that, or something comes up and it's minor. I'll just do it quick. So maybe it was good that I didn't have it because I limited additional obligations that I would put on myself or additional commitments. But that felt like a gap. There was a couple of times it felt critical. My wife and I were discussing something, and I wanted to be, oh, I got to make sure I don't forget that because I told her I would do something. And that my system was that I would do it on the phone. And what I did instead, so again, maybe not essential, is I had a notebook and I wrote it down in the notebook. And maybe that's, that's what I should be doing anyway. Maybe I should be bringing that one along with me and forgetting about the other ones and forgetting about doing it digitally. It's just doesn't fit in my pocket well and whatever. Minor things. So again, maybe not essential, but that was a gap that I felt like I was missing when I was on this trip. And the last one was an app called Obsidian. Obsidian is just a way of capturing notes, essentially. I call it capturing thoughts, collecting thoughts, just not necessarily commitments. I use that for Notion, but just like something curious, something I wanted to look up, something that popped into my head that didn't rise to that level, but I wanted to make sure I didn't forget in any capacity. Maybe I was curious about something in grammar, and I wanted to look it up or research it and do something like that. Or I had a note about the town or whatever, or a note about the trip, just in general. Like I had a lot of times when I would travel, I would journal, and I didn't have access to that. But again, you can do a paper journal, so maybe I should have had that, and I should have done that instead. So again, maybe not essential. So as I'm going through this, I'm thinking, okay, do I really need messages? Do I really need maps? Do I need music? Do I need Notion? Do I need Obsidian? I think the only one that I really would feel like I couldn't do without is just being able to be accessed if there's an emergency. My parents are getting up there in age, same with my in-laws, and just you never know. Anything can happen. It could happen to anybody at any time. And not being able to have that, and those people not being able to get a hold of us, it felt like a gap. Something we would live with 20 years ago. So I don't know how that squares. But at least that's something that I felt was a big gap. The others, essential, that's subjective. Curious to what you think. What are your essential apps? And not necessarily just the apps, but what you use them for. Share them in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you got any value out of it. If you know of anyone in your life that's dealing with scrolling issues on their phone, let them know about the channel. Let them know that I'm here to help and I'm passionate about it. So until next time, appreciate you. Bye.